Day 4 of Washington Commanders training camp marked the beginning of a new week and also brought the energy levels to a whole new high as fans were in attendance for the first time. That and more coming up on this episode of Locked On Commanders.
You are Locked On Commanders, your daily podcast on the Washington Commanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in, everybody, to this episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, David Harrison, credential member of the media covering the Washington Commanders for Sports Illustrated's CommanderGameDay.com, and I'm here with you every Monday through Friday. Thank you for coming through for today's episode. Everydayers, I appreciate you coming through every single day. Of course, this is your daily podcast covering the Washington Commanders, and if you haven't already, you can subscribe for free on YouTube or wherever you are listening to today's episode. On today's episode, you're going to hear from undrafted free agent rookie Tyler Owens, who's been making some plays standing out here at training camp so far in the first 4 days. We're going to talk about some things that I want to see improved by the Washington Commanders as we move forward into the training camp period. We're also going to continue our series of watching Jayden Daniels. I'm going to name it Eye on the Tiger. Jayden Daniels, LSU Tiger quarterback, drafted by the Washington Commanders. There were a couple of name ideas. I've settled, I think, on Eye on the Tiger, so we're going to do that, continue that series as well as we talk about practice. But we're going to start this whole thing off talking about the fan energy and the presence here in Ashburn on Sunday. If you want to discuss this episode, any of that, anything else going on about the Washington Commanders, all you got to do is reach out and send me a text, and you can do that by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnCommanders. Sign up to become a Locked On Commanders insider today. From there, you can send me your text. I'll send you my text. You don't got to download any apps. Don't got to worry about any hashtags or any filters. All you do is send me your information, your thoughts, your questions, and I will send you the same live texting during press conferences, text messages during practices, all that stuff. Games coming up, of course. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As the playoffs wind down, the sports stop sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus every single day. So visit FanDuel.com to get started. Fans, not you maybe specifically, but Washington Commanders fans in the stands, in attendance in Ashburn, Virginia, here on Sunday as the Washington Commanders got week 2 of their training camp underway. And I'll tell you, it's one of those things that everybody kind of looks forward to as we get this thing rolling. Like we get things rolling with training camp. There's no fans there. And don't get me wrong, it's just like anything else in life, right? There's certain advantages to not having fans. There's certain advantages to having fans. But it's always nice to kind of get that mixture in the first 3 days. No fans in attendance, and you liked what you saw out of the Washington Commanders overall, but we really wanted to see what the Washington Commanders fan base was going to look like when we came out here Sunday. And I'll tell you what, guys, I pulled up. So practice started at 9 o'clock in the morning. I pulled up at about 7:15, knowing that I needed to get here early to anticipate the fan traffic, and I am glad that I did, because I pulled up at 7:15. I got into the facility, came to the media tent, got settled in, and everything else. Nikki Javala of the Washington Post. If you don't follow her on Twitter, go check out her Twitter account. She arrived just a little bit after me, and from the time that I arrived, there was a line at the Ashburn gate, at the facility gate here in Ashburn, Virginia, but it wasn't like a whoa. It wasn't like a blow your mind type of line. It was a good line, solid line. I was like, okay, definitely fans are excited. Glad I got here early. By the time Nikki Javala got here, and she walked in the tent maybe 10 minutes after I did. By the time she got to the parking lot, that line was long. I mean, I have stood in line for concert tickets that were not nearly as long as that. And this is a Washington Commanders training. It's a practice. We're talking about practice out here. And you guys, Washington Commanders, that fan base represents all of you. Those fans showed up in droves. And then the energy around, we had the press conference with Dan Quinn. There were some fans hanging out. I'll tell you right now, I personally was a little bit concerned it was going to turn into like a college game day environment where Dan Quinn was going to say something the fans liked, and the fans were like, yeah, go coach, and everything else. Don't get me wrong, love the excitement and everything, but it could be kind of disruptive. We're like kind of in there trying to do the press conference, but you know what? Understood the scenario, understood the test, rose up to it. Fans were definitely looking, watching, listening to what Coach Quinn had to say, but not being disruptive. So just A pluses all around, man. And then once practice got started, seeing you guys in the stands, seeing you guys on the grounds. A couple of you stopped me and said hi. Greatly appreciate that, of course. Looking forward to meeting as many of you as I can out here in training camp, also during the season at the game. So make sure if you see me, you holler out to me, let me shake your hand. Thank you for being a listener or a viewer here of the program. But you guys were a part of that atmosphere. It was hot, right? It was the hottest day of training camp so far. Monday's going to be even hotter, but today was the hottest day of training camp so far. But you guys kept the energy up, and really it made it a very enjoyable environment. I was talking to some Commanders employees, some Harris Blitzer Sports Entertainment Group employees who had never been out here before. They were really impressed with what you guys brought to the table. Bobby Wagner talked about it afterwards, about being impressed with the fans. Of course, he's been around a really great fan base there in Seattle, but he was very impressed with what Washington Commanders fans brought out. So absolutely day 4. Biggest story of the day is the fans being in attendance for day 1. But of course, we also had football, right? So let's turn to our eye on the Tiger. Let's take a look at Jayden Daniels overall in the team drills. And again, remember, I don't chart the 7s. I don't chart the throws on air. I just chart the team drills, because to me, that's the most important thing that we want to keep track of during this training camp session. He went 6 for 8 total, 75%. 75% completion rate is never a bad thing. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Jayden Daniels had this near perfect day, shook off the little bit of struggle he had on Friday and just looked like what he did on Wednesday and Thursday. No, it wasn't necessarily the most impressive day for Jayden Daniels on Sunday, but certainly 75% completion rate, you'll take that pretty much any day. Now, the thing that really kind of stood out for me, though, is he went 1 for 3 with the second team. He went 5 for 5 with the first team offense. Now, I don't want to just sit here and say, so obviously the reason he went 1 for 3 with the second team is because lesser talent. It's not necessarily fair to everybody involved, and that's not necessarily fair from a contextual standpoint from each pass attempt, which we'll get into here in just a second. He was a little bit off in the 7s that we watched. There was a pass specifically that he targeted for Terry McLaurin that, it looked like he and Terry were kind of not on the same page, but at the same time, even if they were on the same page, like Terry McLaurin wasn't tall enough to go up and hit the ball that Jayden threw. So I don't know what really happened there. Terry McLaurin told us a lot that Jayden's really good about kind of coming back and be like, hey, let's talk about this rep. Let's talk about what happened. So I'm sure that they did that, or they will do that as well. So again, like I said, not 75% completion rate. You like that. Still a lot of things that you'd like to see get cleaned up. Jayden's first time out there on 11s was with the second team. He went 1 for 1 to start the drill, rolled out left, threw back against his body to Benson at the rookie tight end. We've seen him do that before in practices. That is something that he's going to do a lot of in games. It's going to be something that really stresses out defenses as he rolls out, creates space, creates more time for himself. What do? It's kind of almost like defending an option play, right? Do you give the quarterback the edge and risk him running around you, or do you pursue him and risk the guy that you're supposed to be covering coming open? It's going to be a really hard thing for defenders to look for. The next pass was incomplete, intended for Olamide Zaccheaus. Next time on the field, he was also with the second team. Only 1 pass in that series. It felt incomplete. It was a high pass. It was a dig route breaking in by tight end Zach Ertz. It was a hot read, so you want to give a little bit of context there. It was a hot read. Still, you want that ball lower. Zach Ertz would tell you got his hands on it, so he probably should catch it. Got it. Everybody's going to want to do a little bit something better there. You like the hot read. You like Jayden being under duress and understanding, boom, here's where I go with the ball. You love that decision making, but of course, to bring the whole thing to a head, you want to see the ball on target. Third team's drill was his first team's drill with the first team. First pass, completion screen to Jahan Dotson. Second pass, a quick out route to Zach Ertz. Third pass, a quick slant route to Terry McLaurin. So a lot of quick balls getting out of there in the face of pressure, but very decisive, and that's what you want to keep seeing from this rookie quarterback. Even if he has a less than good day on Friday, a not so great day on Sunday, you want to see that decisiveness, you want to see that confidence in his decision making, and we're seeing that. There was a little bit of a weird kind of Hail Mary scenario portion of the practice on Sunday. I don't really know what their objective was. They put 10 seconds on the clock. They gave the first, second, third team offenses each 1 rep, and each quarterback, Marcus Mariota with the first team, Jayden Daniels with the second, Jeff Driscoll with the third. Each of them didn't throw the Hail Mary. They checked down to a running back. Not really sure what was going on there, so I didn't really chart that, just to be completely transparent. Second team, final team drill of the day for Jayden Daniels. He was back with the second team. It was a halftime scenario. So clock's running out. They're down by 7. It's probably a 1-and-1, right? So if you get points here, you get the ball to open up the half, potentially take the lead. And the idea is let's get the ball downfield. Let's also run the clock and not give our opponent time to come back and score. Jayden Daniels completed his first pass on the left side to Olamide Zaccheaus, completed his second pass on the right side to Olamide Zaccheaus. So Olamide Zaccheaus had a pretty good day at practice. Now, I'll tell you what, that second pass, though, and it was his final team's pass. After that, I think they ran the ball once, called a timeout, kicked the field goal. That right side pass, the anticipation on that pass, guys. And the great thing about it is, like, all the media members, we were standing on that right sideline. The fans in the bleachers were standing on that right, or sitting in that right sideline. Not supposed to be taping team sessions, but you know how it goes. So there might be a video out there of it. But if there is a video out there of it, you guys will be able to see. Olamide Zaccheaus is about 2 steps from even hitting his break point when Jayden Daniels gets rid of that ball. And Olamide hits his break point, makes his break, cuts outside, and the ball is just waiting for him, man. It was a thing of beauty. So a really great way to wrap up the practice for Jayden Daniels. Again, like I said, 75% overall completion rate in team drills, which is what you want to see. Not a great day, not the most impressive day that we've seen, but you like the decisiveness, you like the accuracy, especially on that last pass, and you really like seeing him have success on the final pass of the day. Of course, Jayden Daniels, as always, not the only one out here practicing, so we got some other news and notes, and I do have some things that I'm a little concerned with that I want to see get improved as we continue into Commanders training camp. That's coming up on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode of Locked On Commanders brought to you by FanDuel. I love sports. You love sports. The fans that were out here today certainly love sports. The players, you argue that they probably love sports pretty well. But when the NBA playoffs are over, the NHL playoffs are over, Major League Baseball playoffs haven't started, the NFL is just getting ramped up. Bottom line, sports just simply aren't sportsing the way that we usually want them to. But FanDuel lets all of us keep the sports going whenever we want, because all we got to do is open up that FanDuel Sportsbook app, dream up any bet you want anytime you're in the mood, and boom, you are sportsing and competing once again. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right, from there, or there's something for everyone every day all summer long. And new customers, right now, you're getting $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. And this weekend, FanDuel had a no-sweat same-game parlay offer for Saturday and Sunday, where you craft your Major League Baseball same-game parlay, and as long as it met certain minimum criteria, even if you lost, you would be credited for your losses by FanDuel. So head over to FanDuel.com, start making the most out of your summer sports. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. You've heard of the Cupid Shuffle on Sunday. It was the Washington Commanders offensive line shuffle. That was a very interesting thing to keep track of and pay attention to. Continuing on with today's episode of Locked On Commanders, thanks for coming through and making this show your first listen or your first view today and every day. Every day, thanks for coming through. Make sure you come back tomorrow. We got another practice, and we are in pads for the first time. And by we, I mean they. I ain't wearing pads. It's too hot out here for that. I'm not in shape for that. The athletes are going to be wearing pads. It's going to be a lot of fun. We got a lot of things to look for, so we're going to have a lot of fun with that. In the meantime, if you need more sports coverage, make sure you're checking out Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every single day to bring you all the biggest sports stories around, and it's completely free, live streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So continuing on with our conversation of day 4 here at Washington Commanders training camp in Ashburn, Virginia. Talked about Jayden Daniels, talked about the fan presence, a lot of good stuff to look at there, but we got to talk about some other stuff. So coming out of team drills, the first set of team drills, first team left tackle, Brandon Coleman, third-round rookie out of TCU, almost like Kansas State, which is weird, TCU. First team right tackle, Cornelius Lucas. Andrew Wylie, not on the field. We'll talk about that more here in just a little bit. First team left guard, Michael Dieter. It's been Nick Allegretti. Michael Dieter getting first team reps at left guard. And honestly, from there, it just got a little bit wild. We saw Trent Scott at left tackle, Trent Scott at right tackle, Alex Akinbulu at left tackle. We saw Nick Allegretti at guard. We saw there's a player, and I'm not going to do it here on the show because unfortunately I don't have my script in front of, or my roster in front of me, and I'm going to butcher his name if I say it. People have been trying to help me all day learn his name. I'm doing my best. I don't want to be disrespectful to the young fella, but we saw him getting some left tackle spots. He's probably a practice squad guy at best at right now, developmental offensive tackle, but saw him get some reps, like just the offensive line shuffling. Other than basically Tyler Biadasz and Sam Cosme, everybody else was kind of shuffling in and out. So the question that a lot of us had, because if you go back to Friday, right, Andrew Wylie was on the field, but kind of the last 2 or 3 team sets wasn't out there. Brandon Coleman, that's where he got his first team reps of the training camp, where he got to fill in at right tackle for Andrew Wylie. And even on Friday, a lot of us were like, well, what's going on with that whole situation? And most of us kind of assumed, well, just want to get him reps, kind of see how he looks. And then we come out here today, so you do that to end the first week of training camp practices. You have the day off, you come back here on Sunday, and not only did Andrew Wylie not start the team drills with the first team, Andrew Wylie didn't play in a single team set. So now the question is, and I asked a member of the organization, is there an official injury, update or anything like that? And nothing. So a few of us caught up with Andrew Wylie. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to be part of that. I was talking to Tyler Owens while they did that, but JP Finley of NBC Sports, I think John Keim of ESPN, all caught up with Andrew Wylie, asked him, what's the deal? What's up with not being in the teams? Basically, what he told him is that he's got body tightness. Didn't say specifically where, but basically there's tightness. And so out of an abundance of caution and all those things, they went ahead and took him out, but he said that he would be ready to go again tomorrow, which is the first day in pads. So that'll be really interesting to see if Andrew Wylie continues to have to sit out due to that quote-unquote body tightness, or if that's something that kind of recovers itself. There's a lot of conspiracy theories that can go in there, right? Because a lot of people had a lot of questions at right tackle. Is Andrew struggling at right tackle and Brandon Coleman maybe getting the opportunity to come in at left, and Luke is going to get the opportunity to be that starting right tackle? Right now, you just got to take everything at face value. We'll see what it looks like when the pads come on tomorrow, and we'll obviously continue to monitor the offensive line. As far as Michael Dieter getting first-team left guard reps, I think that's just part of the Dan Quinn competition mantra, right? He wants to go and he wants to see everybody get competition. Nothing about Michael Dieter stood out negatively. Obviously, without pads, you can't like pancake people and all that stuff. So not a whole lot of necessarily super off the charts either. But he looked solid. Looked like a guy who belongs on NFL offensive line. So certainly a good first day of first-team reps for Michael Dieter. Emmanuel Forbes continuing to get first-team cornerback reps, and he's a guy that we talked about a lot. A lot of us assume that Michael Davis was going to come in and basically take that job. But as far as right now is concerned, Michael Davis has gotten some first-team reps, don't get me wrong, but Emmanuel Forbes certainly getting the lion's share. So Emmanuel Forbes definitely getting his opportunity, the first-round draft pick from last year, not by this regime, obviously, but they are obviously giving him the opportunity to prove himself, to develop, to improve, and to show that he deserves to be a starting NFL cornerback in the league. Speaking of defensive backs, undrafted free agent rookie Tyler Owens out of Texas Tech, looking really good, guys. He is flashing out here. He flashed on day one. He flashed today again. He's flashed kind of throughout. There was one day where he wasn't able to practice, unfortunately, but outside of that, he's been flashing a lot. Today he had an interception on a play. There was another play where it was a run play. Chris Rodriguez was coming through the hole, and they're making a little bit of contact, but you're not going full force. But what I noticed is Tyler Owens approaches Chris Rodriguez coming through the gap, comes up to him, goes to kind of wrap him up. Hand goes right on the ball, and he didn't do it, but he kind of simulated it, trying to rip that ball out. Tyler Owens is a super aggressive safety. I think you guys are going to like him a lot when you see him get on the field. We had a little bit of time to catch up with him for about a couple minutes after practice. So you guys will hear that here in just a little bit. And then finally, my last note before we get to where I want to see some improvements out of this team moving forward, Mike Sandersill, rookie nickel cornerback, looking super comfortable in coverage. Hasn't had like a big splash play in the training camp period yet. Hasn't had like a big interception or anything. But the biggest thing for a rookie right now, you want to make the plays, don't get me wrong, and I'm sure that he wants to make a play for his defense. But right now, he's not getting exposed. You're not seeing this dude get beat. You're not seeing him get burned. You're not seeing wide open routes that he's supposed to be in coverage on. He looks very comfortable and fits in to this Washington Commanders defense. So definitely not a liability, even if he's not making any superstar plays right now. And again, for a rookie, that's really, really, really good. Like that I can't say that enough. So I don't want that to come across as like not complimentary. Very complimentary when you look at a rookie nickel corner and say you fit right in to this NFL defense. And then the punt return specialist. He continues to get punt return work with the Washington Commanders. I think the return specialist potential of Mike Sandersill is incredibly intriguing. So I'm looking forward to seeing if they have him do that a little bit in the preseason so we can get a look at that. So overall, again, more good stuff. The Washington Commanders continue to build towards being their final 2024 selves. I got a couple of things that I want to see this team get better on moving forward. And then we're going to hear from the man himself, Tyler Owens, coming up next on this episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And this episode of Locked On Commanders is brought to you by Game Time. And Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which means they make getting your Major League Baseball tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch, with killer last-minute deals that gets you up to 60% off of ticket prices, all-in prices, so there's no surprises when you hit the checkout button. Views from your seat so you can see what you're getting yourself into, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets. Friday, August 2nd, you can go to Nationals Park to see the Washington Nationals host the Milwaukee Brewers for as little as $5 per ticket, or go see the Baltimore Orioles host the Toronto Blue Jays on Monday, tomorrow, for as little as $12. Take the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create your account, use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create your account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. We're wrapping up this day 4 Washington Commanders training camp episode of Locked On Commanders. Talking about a couple of gripes that I've got, if you want to call them that. Pre-snap penalties. Right now, the Washington Commanders, if there's one area where you got to look at this team, you're like, man, y'all really need to clean this up. It's the pre-snap penalties. And I think it's mostly false starts. I haven't been charting and haven't been counting, but they just feel like mostly false starts. But there are some offsides penalties, some early get-offs, things like that. You just need to see this team clean that kind of stuff up. I'm actually expecting, if it's not me, it'll be somebody else that asks Dan Quinn, like, what are your plans? Kind of what do you do to try to fix those penalties as we get into the rest of training camp? So look out for Dan Quinn to kind of have an answer for that. And then the kicker, Ramiz Ahmed. Listen, he's not doing terrible. He's not doing horrible. Like, he's not the worst kicker, that I've ever seen. I'm like, man, what is this dude doing on an NFL field? But there is still some things to be desired. And, specifically on Friday, he was kicking some longer field goals, about 50 yards or so, and just did not really look like he had the full NFL leg that you really want out there. Kind of the best way I can kind of put it is almost like the Taylor Heineke arm version of a kicker's leg, right? So take it for what it's worth. And there's some options out there, right? Randy Bullock, he does turn 35 in December, so a little bit older. But last year he had an 83% field goal make rate from in 2023 again for the Giants, including 3 for 4 from 40 beyond. I think 1 for 1 from 50. Zane Gonzalez, everydayers, if you've been around for our previous kicker conversations, I'm going to go with my Arizona State guy, Zane Gonzalez. Zane looked like a really good kicker, was very accurate before he went through a bunch of injuries. Now he's been taking a couple of years to kind of get over those injuries, rehab, do all those things. If he's healthy, then I think he's definitely a guy who's worth bringing in. So we'll see. We'll see what the Washington Commanders do. Again, there might be some questions about that as well from Dan Quinn either tomorrow morning or as we get into this process. But it would be nice, I think, to see the Washington Commanders bring in some competition there. But now let's get back to the good news. Undrafted free agent safety Tyler Owens has been balling out. Caught up with him for a couple of minutes at the end of practice. Let's check that out. All right, Tyler, so let's start off with the easy one, right? How's training camp going so far?
It's going pretty good so far.
And what do you think about the NFL experience?
I like it. It's a lot different, a lot higher expectations. For the most part, it's still fun.
Yeah. Coming in undrafted, do you feel like you have like a chip on your shoulder? You feel like you got something to prove?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And then day one, I saw you scream around the edge. I saw Jayden try to react to you, but you were so fast off that edge, you couldn't even move. That's a super athletic quarterback. You know that. What does it take to kind of have that kind of rep in practice?
It just takes focus. Like, that's the main thing. Being able to focus, play after play. That's what separates the good player from the great. So I'm just trying to do that. Use my athletic ability as my advantage.
And then today, again, saw you using that athletic ability, got that interception. How's that feel to be out here on that NFL field and not only having confidence in yourself, but making plays that show everybody 40 belongs out here?
It feels good. I always believe in myself, what I'm saying? So I just got to prove those doubters wrong. So that's like I'm able to do.
And I mean, you're getting work with the second team. You're getting work like all over, all up and down the team drills. How does it feel to have that confidence from your coaching staff that they want to put you out there to show what you got?
I just got to keep proving them right. You know what I'm saying? I can't let them down, so I just go out there and go hard every play.
And then from the rookie class, who's your guy? Who's the guy you lean on from the rookie group?
Who I lean on?
Yeah.
Like in the rookie group or like one of the vets?
In the rookie group.
I lean on all my guys. All my guys are there. Like all of them making plays, so we all just try to be there for each other.
And then what about the vet group? Is there a guy that's kind of taking you under his wing?
Pretty much all of the vets. They've been all real supportive, like helping me out. So I appreciate all of them.
Absolutely. What do you think about the fan presence out here?
It's pretty good. Yeah, it looked like they came out to support. So I don't know how it was last year, but it's good.
It was pretty good. All right, bro. I appreciate you. Stay healthy, man. Keep making plays. All right, great catch up with Tyler Owens. I have a feeling it's not going to be the last time we talk to that young fellow. So hopefully you enjoyed that couple of minutes we got done. He's a man of not a lot. He's not a man of a lot of words. He gets to the point, and I appreciate that about him. Looking forward to see him making more plays. I almost forgot my quote of the day. I can't believe you almost let me forget to get my quote of the day in. So quote of the day, we only talked to Marcus Mariota up at the 10. So Marcus Mariota, basically the only person we have to choose from, but he had really great insight into Jayden Daniels and his decision-making and how to use his legs because, again, he's a quarterback that is going to be that dual-threat guy, but you want to see him be judicious in when he uses his legs. Marcus Mariota of Jayden saying, quote, he's got a great head on his shoulders. And he's done a great job of handling all that, end quote. And really, at the end of the day, like I asked Marcus specifically about, pads come on tomorrow, but for a quarterback, like what does that really do, right? Like how does that really change your practice? And he admitted, he's like, look, we can't be hit. So putting on pads, like, it doesn't really change a whole lot of things. Our game is much more cerebral. And then you talk about Jayden Daniels and his decision-making and when to use his legs, when not to use his legs. And the fact that this veteran quarterback who is also athletic, also a number 2 overall pick, is really is praising very highly this new number 2 overall pick, Heisman-winning quarterback for a franchise on his ability to decide when the right time to do these kinds of things are. Very, very promising for Marcus Mariota to say that of Jayden Daniels. So that's our quote of the day. Marcus Mariota talking about Jayden. Make sure you check out the entire Marcus Mariota press conference. Washington Commanders streamed that on their YouTube page. So check that out. Marcus had some good things to talk about. Talked about the fans, talked about his experiences, talked about how his experiences correlate with Jayden's. We talked about practice, talked about pads coming on, all that good stuff. So that's going to wrap it up here for today's episode of Locked On Commanders. Again, we got another one coming up tomorrow, another day of practice. We got pads, so we're going to have a lot to talk about, a lot to look for. Make sure you're coming through for that. In the meantime, if you got questions or comments, all you got to do is shoot me a text message. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnCommanders. Become a Locked On Commanders Insider today and send me those text messages, send me those questions, send me those takes. Don't forget to also check out Locked On Sports Today, the first ever 24/7 live streaming sports channel on YouTube. And as always, thank you for making Locked On Commanders your first listen of the day, every day. Thanks for coming through on a regular basis like you do. Until we speak again, if you're out and about, please be safe, be kind, and we will see you next time for another episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.